deep down inside, I knew this wasn't the way to live. And down the line, it became my demise. And by the time I was 35 years old, I was a homeless man that was living paycheck to paycheck, buying my last 8-ball, which actually happened to be cut, losing it on the freeway because it was in a magnet underneath my car, scouring the freeways, like walking up and down the freeways, looking for it. Like I parked my car on the side of the freeway in hopes of finding my last bit of dope, and within time getting off of it completely by going into residential treatment. Hello, my name is Pej with Pej Interventions. I am an interventionist and a recovery coach that helps people with drug addiction, alcoholism, and mental health. Today's topic is going to be Pej and his fascination with meth. Obviously, my past fascination. I'm in recovery 17 plus years. I used to use a lot of different types of substances. When I was growing up in my adolescent period, there was one time that I tried meth along with other drugs, and I didn't really like it at first. It was crank. And then later on, when I did suffer from body dysmorphia, get on steroids around 17 years of age, and then I would smoke a lot of weed when I was coming off a cycle, I would overeat, and I ended up asking some people, how are you guys all losing weight? They said, meth. So I said, give me some of that, and the next thing you know, I did it. Now, what was my fascination with this stuff? Like, why did I even get into it so heavily? I think a lot of people do a lot of meth for different reasons. Some people like to fix things, take things apart, stay up late hours of the night. Some people get into shenanigans. They will steal, they will lie, they will cheat. There's a lot of criminal activities that can take place with it. I was definitely into a lot of that stuff when I was actively using meth, but solely in the first place was to lose weight, and then the next thing I knew, it would just do things for me. The euphoria within itself was something that I was seeking all the time. In the beginning of using meth, it gave me certain types of feelings where after a while I felt like this is my everything, this is my fuel, this is what's going to get me through life. I know it's probably not healthy, especially the way that I use it, but I got to keep doing this stuff. So in the beginning, it was just snorting it. And when I would snort it, it would keep me up for days and days. Also, the style of meth, which was the crank, which was, methamphetamine, it was much different. You would snort it, it would totally go up my nostril and really, really hurt super, super bad. As much as it would hurt, the fascination that would come out of that is what I just chased. Because then all of a sudden, hours and days would go by, and activities and people and being around certain people would increase. Some of them were dangerous, but it almost seemed exciting to be around these types of people and do certain things and certain types of activities, certain behaviors. It was like I would see often people commit crimes, and that as much as you go into this mindset where you almost think like this is part of it all, and this is what we do, and this is what we need to do to come up on people. You know, a lot of greed, a lot of narcissism, a lot of narcissistic thoughts. You think you know better than others. You think you're not so bad. And the next thing you know, you are behaving in a way to where if the police find out, you're going to get into a lot of trouble because you're breaking laws and things like that. So then the paranoia can actually definitely increase within an individual. I myself was always thinking that I was 10 steps ahead of anybody, whether they were drug dealers, whether they were cops. There was a fascination not just with using it, but also with dealing it. When I would sell methamphetamines, it definitely gave me a large supply of drugs for myself, for personal use, to be able to also supply anybody that needed it, but also be able to have plenty around for the people that ran in the same circles as me. And in a sense, it made people like me. I would have certain types of women that would, they would do things for me. They would be around the house. They'd clean the house. Sometimes we would hook up. We would have relationships. None of them were healthy, of course. We could go to certain types of settings like strip clubs, nightclubs, raves, things like that. Stay up all night long for many nights in a row. Days would go by super fast. And then we had certain people that would answer to me, certain friends. As a drug dealer, that's what happens. You're the man, you're the plug, you're the dealer. Everybody wants you for one particular thing, and that is your drugs. So there was a fascination that would build around that. My ego was being fueled, right? Like I needed to definitely be able to be there for those that needed me because I had a sense of purpose. And what was that purpose? To be the supplier to the entire town or anybody and everybody that came into my path. And then on top of that, I had to be careful because there were people that would try to come up on me. And even that within itself was a thrill. It was a thrill to sell the drugs. It was a thrill to hide the drugs from the people that I thought were going to come after me. So I was always looking over this shoulder to make sure that nobody's about to jack me. And I was always looking over this shoulder to make sure that no police are watching me. I didn't really experience psychosis myself, but there was plenty of people that were around me that when they would do too much or overshoot the mark, I would see them go into this paranoid state, sometimes using stethoscopes to listen to the walls, sometimes just acting very, very on edge or acting like the world is after them, the FBI, the CIA. And sometimes I would get a thrill out of that because I thought, they're too far gone. That hasn't happened to me. I'm still somewhat normal. Again, a lot of grandiose thought processes, and so life just went on. Now, there did come a time in my life where I got off of it, but I would still do other substances, so I was replacing one drug for another. I thought that the meth was becoming a problem for me. I quit for a number of years, and then I got back into it because there was opportunities to sell it over, like in different states, and so I was transporting it and making a bunch of money, but the problem was is in the end, I became my own best or worst customer. And so what happened is I became a full-blown meth head junkie that was living to just get high all day, morning, noon, and night. There was no more selling it. All that it came down to was me just trying to make a buck, trying to make some money, however that may be, whether I was working. I wasn't really much of a person that would steal to try to get my stuff, although I was, robbing my mom blind of any good night's sleep because I was not good in my everyday living. She was worried about me morning, noon, and night. She was always worried that I was either going to get arrested or she would get that phone call that your son has passed away. And I would often get arrested for doing it for the certain types of people that I would run in circles with. But again, there was a fascination behind that because those certain types of people were enabling my drug addiction. So I needed to, show them that I was worthy of being up to their standards in selling the meth or getting the meth or distributing the meth or having the certain types of people that would get the meth from me, which I could get from them. Again, it was it was poison. Like basically I was living in the underbelly of the beast, as much as it seemed like a fascination and it was fueling my ego. At the end of the day, deep down inside, I knew this wasn't the way to live. And down the line, it became my demise. And by the time I was 35 years old, I was a homeless man that was living paycheck to paycheck, buying my last 8-ball, which actually happened to be cut, losing it on the freeway because it was in a magnet underneath my car, scouring the freeways, like walking up and down the freeways, looking for it. Like I parked my car on the side of the freeway in hopes of finding my last bit of dope, and within time getting off of it completely by going into a residential treatment recovery home and getting my life back and really, really getting in the path of recovery. I ended up going to lots of Crystal Meth Anonymous meetings. I met other people that were former tweakers as myself, and I realized that the fascination was a facade. It was a complete facade. I wasted a lot of years of my life not producing, not getting somewhere in life. I even went to college for a little while on it and totally tanked a great opportunity at becoming somebody because I was totally high all the time. I even tried to quit before I went, but unfortunately I was just a slave to the drug, to the pipe, to the inhaling part of it, all of that. And God, it feels good to be sober now. God, it feels good to be sober now. Clean and sober. I'm not a slave to any type of substance anymore. And life is so good. That's why I do what I do. I want to help people that are stuck. I get a lot of phone calls from across the country from people that have addictions themselves. Some of them are in psychosis, some that have a loved one that's in psychosis. And so when it comes to trying to go out and helping them or even being on the phone with them and talking to them, I understand them. Whether they're on the drug or whether they have a loved one that's on the drug, I understand what that loved one is going through or what they themselves that are a meth addict are going through. And so if you're ever struggling and you just want to have a conversation, you can reach out to me. 310-596-9356.